Good morning, beautiful people. It is Sarah Willoughby from sarahwilloughby.com.au. I am very excited this morning to be talking with a beautiful friend and colleague, Colleen Jorgensen. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm so excited that we actually get time to connect, and I know that you are an expert in all things pain related, and I know that I am going to learn so much from you today.
Thank you. I hope so. That's the goal.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to share with you Colleen's bio, and I'm just going to read it because I never feel like I can do it justice by summarizing. So this is Colleen's bio in her words. So Colleen is an osteopath, a graduate of Pain Care U's professional pain care program, and a therapeutic Pilates, yoga, and somatics teacher. She started dancing at the age of 3 and hasn't stopped exploring movement since, which I love. I have a little one who loves to dance, and she can't sit still. She can't even sit and eat her dinner without getting up and dancing
Love
around
it.
the kitchen,
It
which is
makes me
very,
happy to
very
hear that.
cute. It does, yeah. Colleen and I, all your qualifications, Colleen, you have so many qualifications, which I will put for everybody in
Yeah,
the
you don't need to list
notes.
them.
But Colleen has a myriad of professional qualifications and degrees, and was the proud owner of a small multidisciplinary clinic and Pilates studio for 16 years until challenging health issues changed her path quite suddenly. Living with chronic pain for over a decade has given Colleen an invaluable perspective on the day-to-day challenges those in pain face. And for me, I love to know that somebody has walked that path and is really talking from that lived experience. So I wanted to highlight that. In 2020, her desire to empower people with knowledge, awareness, and practical tools inspired the creation of Dare to Heal, Discover Yourself to Recover Your Health, which is an 8-week online pain care program. And I know we're going to talk about that. So I can't wait to dive in.
Me too.
Yay. So I would love to start with just understanding a little bit about your personal story and how you, the journey that you went on with pain and how that sort of led you to where you are now. And then we might need to backtrack and dive in a little bit deeper to some of the things that you've done in the past.
Okay, sure. It's interesting. So when I was 17, I had a back injury that led to a surgery 5 years later. But interestingly, throughout that, because I was young, because I was healthy, I was a dancer, so I was super flexible. So I was sent to many different doctors. They all did 2 specific physical tests, which I always did well on because I was a dancer. So it didn't show up the way it normally would in people. And so they kept telling my parents it's all in her head. It's a psychological issue. There's nothing really wrong, blah, 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 blah. Took 5 years of, it was pain in my back and nerve pain down the one leg for 3 years. And then the next 2 years of that journey was down both legs, had bladder involvement. And finally, one day I just couldn't take it anymore and went to a friend who's in the medical profession and said, look, something's going on. I know there's something going on. So they finally did an MRI and saw that there was significant stuff going on. And then they wanted to rush me into surgery. So it was really interesting to see that shift of no confirmation of anything going wrong. She must be making it all up to having confirmation. And now we need to rush to this solution. So it was an interesting to be on the receiving end of that kind of just of not being seen, I guess, when you're in pain. But then the other interesting part of that journey compared to what I've been going through more recently is that even though I had chronic pain then for 5 years, I had moments of relief. I could get relief if I avoided certain activities, or if I got into certain positions, or if I received treatment or did certain exercises. So I had some ability to shift my pain during that whole 5-year period. I did end up having surgery. It was very successful. It gave me 20 years of full function. I was, Pilates and yoga teacher, was stronger than I've ever been throughout that period. And then I guess it's how long ago now? 2010, however long ago that was now. 2010, I had an incident that resulted in a spinal cord compression injury. And that journey has been really different. So I've been in chronic pain since 2010. I did
Mm.
have 2 more spine surgeries, which helped with part of the issue, but did not resolve the chronic pain and actually created more pain in many ways. And what's very different this time around is there isn't that ability to get that same relief by changing positions or having a treatment or doing a certain movement. So that's been a very good learning experience for me as someone who helps people in pain, that, okay, it's not every pain issue that you can just do A, B, C, and you're going to see a
Mm.
change right away. And that's a hard thing to learn in your body, but it's been very helpful as a professional. The second thing that's been a really good learning experience is that this second time around, my nervous system has been such a part of the story. And, we could talk for a very long time just about that. But in a nutshell, this time around, so for the last decade or so, it's not just the pain that I feel in my body, but very sensitive to sound and to light and to touch. I just feel on edge often. So there's this whole nervous system component that I didn't have the last time. And that's also been a really good learning experience, because I've learned that even if we cannot necessarily affect the pain, so let's say the pain is an 8 on 10 and we can't change that, but we can get the nervous system to come to a different state. Well, now I'm at an 8 on 10, but I can live my life and I can still smile and enjoy my life. Whereas when it's an 8 on 10 and the nervous system is up here, oof, it's hard to function.
Mm.
So that has been a
Mm.
really interesting learning experience too, that I've really tried to bring into both my pain program and just when I work one-on-one with people in clinic.
Wow. So you've been on quite the journey.
Quite a journey. Yes.
Yeah, and what I've always known about you and noticed in our interactions is that you are somebody who's always smiling. And I think that's something that when we have pain that is not visible, that is something that gets lost in terms of other people really understanding what people are dealing with. And we
Yeah,
always know that, there's that saying, isn't there, that you never know what's really going on in somebody else's life. So be kind. But
absolutely.
but as human beings, we still don't understand and we still judge. So talk to me a little bit around having to almost put a mask on and having to show up with a smile on your face when actually.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So a couple of things there. One, the invisibility of chronic pain is one of the biggest challenges for people, myself included, because when you look fine, people don't relate to the fact that there might be something going on, right? So they expect you to be able
Mm.
to do all the things and to be in a good mood and to be able to participate. And I had this interesting conversation recently with a colleague. She shared a blog post talking a little bit about this, not in relation to chronic pain though. And I shared with her that, I've been living in chronic pain for 12 years, 12 or 13 years now, but people can't see that. And then last year I had an injury where I broke several bones in my foot and ankle and was on crutches for 12 weeks. And it was so interesting to me to see the outpouring of sympathy and the offers of help, because people saw me on crutches and they could see this swollen blue foot. And
Mm.
yet that injury was nothing, nothing in
Yeah.
comparison to what I've been living every day for 12 years. But because people could see it, they related to it. So it was a real eye opener for me. You asked me about putting a mask on. It's certainly a part of it, especially when you go to work. You don't want to, especially with the type of work that I do. I'm an osteopath. I see
Mm.
people
Mm.
one-on-one for their pain. So it's not the place for me to be coming in and,
And
and complaining
me
about my
too.
own pain. Yeah, exactly. But I have to say that to me, a large part of it is not putting a mask on. I'm very lucky that I'm someone who's optimistic by nature. I tend to see the silver lining in things. I tend to see the beauty in the small things and the little moments in life. And so I am genuinely a happy person. And I have seen throughout this how lucky I am, because that is not the case for everyone. Not everyone is born seeing the glass half full. So even though I am born seeing the glass half full, these last 12 years have challenged me a lot to sometimes be able to keep that that outlook. And then I try to put myself in the position of someone who's born seeing the glass half empty, and how much more effort it is for them to get to that place of being able to see beauty in the day-to-day when you're struggling. So I recognize that that's a privilege, that I was born that way, and that that's more my nature. Having said that, we can work on that. There are a lot of studies that show that focusing on gratitude, compassion, and joy really does help to shift our physiology. And that's certainly something that I've seen. Seeking joy and using curiosity is something that's a big part of the program that I run. And I've been fascinated to see the shift in people, that when you can shift from a place of fear to a place of curiosity, when you can start to understand that I can have pain and I can smile. Both things can be true at the same time. I can have pain and I can have fun with my friends. Life changes because your life opens up again. Whereas normally when you're in chronic pain, your life can get very small. It can shrink in on itself, and it's very easy to become isolated and your whole life becomes about your pain. And that's not a good, it's not a good life. It's not a well-rounded life for people. So being able to recognize that both things can be true. I can be in pain, and instead of I'm in pain and so I can't, I'm in pain and so maybe right now I can't, or I can't do this yet, or I'm in pain and I'm going to do this anyways because I'm in pain anyways. So why not? I don't know if that answered your question fully. I went off tangent a little
No,
bit
that
there.
I've got so many things going around in my head that I want to pick up on, because you just shared so much wisdom just in that. So for me, I just want to highlight, I completely agree with you around the work around gratitude and joy and compassion for self. And I think we're very critical on ourselves.
Yes.
And when we can actually learn self-compassion, our relationship with ourselves and our body fundamentally changes. And that's the journey that I've been on and that I work with my clients on.
Yeah.
But it's in those small moments. It's being about learning to be present in the moment, to recognize that we can have joy in the moment and have gratitude for the warm cup of tea that we're drinking, or the opportunity to sit by the fire and read our favorite book, the opportunity to go outside and stand under the night sky and just breathe. It doesn't have to be those massive moments of, I'm going to Disneyland on holiday for 2 weeks, so therefore I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I can find joy and gratitude in that moment. And it is a work in progress. It is a step-by-step, moment-by-moment awareness of being able to reframe things and being able to change that mindset. So I love that you encompass that into your work, and that you recognize that, and that you've been on that personal journey. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because I think...
Thank you for recognizing it. May I share one little thing about that?
Absolutely.
So when I first launched the program, I was decided to sign off. And the people who signed up for the program got an email every single day as a reminder of what we should focus on that day, blah, blah, blah. And I always signed it, seek joy. And I really sat with that. And I thought, is this going to make people angry? Is it going to seem insensitive that I know they've signed up with this program because they're really suffering? And here I am at the end saying, seek joy. And I was really happy that one of the participants talked about it. About halfway through the program, she said, I would get those emails from you and I would be like, seek joy. How am I supposed to seek joy? It would actually make her a little angry. And she said, but then I finally started to really sit with it and go, okay, wait a second. I know Colleen, and if she's putting seek joy, it's for a reason. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to try seeking joy. And she did. She started not just noticing when there were joyful moments, but she started creating joyful moments for herself. And I cannot tell you the shift in this person, to see her go from someone who was living in such fear and sort of trapped in her pain, to someone who now her face lights up the room because she's constantly seeking joy. And she has made a conscious choice to create these moments for herself, and to recognize the moments that are happening naturally. And it's such a small thing. It's a sign off at the end of an email, but it can have a profound impact if we actually embrace it.
It really can. And I think when we understand what our triggers are, so that was obviously triggering her initially in some way, when we're prepared to do that deep dive into, become an observer to how we're feeling, like, I wonder why I'm feeling this way. There must be something more there. Otherwise it wouldn't be triggering me in that way.
Very
that's
good
when we
point.
can really go on that self-discovery healing journey and start to understand ourselves more. And for me, that relationship we have with self is just the most important one. It's the only one that's guaranteed. We focus so much on
It's
everybody else.
everything.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's everything.
absolutely.
And in it for people who are living with pain, as you know, as having gone through your journey, if we're only relying on the experts, we're sort of at the mercy of that next appointment or that next treatment that's being offered. My dog just came to visit. But if we learn how to tune in and understand what is our body's always giving us messages, right? And if we can tune in and
Yes.
start to understand, well, what does it mean when my body's giving me this signal? How can I tap into that and work with that rather than running
Mm.
away from it or pretending it's not there? And that whole present moment awareness and really trying to understand yourself on a physical level, on an emotional level, all of it, to me is the answer. Our bodies really do have that wisdom, and we're not always brought up to connect with that wisdom, but it is there. And if we can learn to connect with it, there's such power within it, just waiting, just waiting for us to work with
Yes.
it.
Yes, and that wisdom is free, which I always like to point
Yes.
out to people. When we learn to
Yes.
tune into that, we can access that for free, and we can,
For
like you
free
said, we
every
can
moment
find
of the day.
absolutely, we can find all the answers to every challenge that we ever face. It's in our bodies.
Yes.
We just need to go on that journey to learning how to do that and learning how to tune in. But we spend so much time in our minds and our heads, and we overthink because that's what we've been taught, that our mind is the master thinker. But actually, we know it's the heart, which is obviously, connected to our body in a different way. So the other thing that I just wanted to touch on briefly is you've kept mentioning fear. And I want to share with the audience, from my perspective, there's only two opposing forces, fear and love. And in any moment, we can choose whether we look at something from a space of fear or from a space of love. And that was the journey that I went on with my physical pain when I was lying in intensive care in the most excruciating pain, knowing that the doctors could not do anything to stop my deterioration. And it was me, and it was my mindset, and it was my body just like all in one going, okay, I've got to do this for myself. I had to choose love. I had to choose, for the first time in my life, deep compassion, deep self-compassion and love, and say, you've got this. You're going to be okay. And just breathe into that without the judgment, without the criticism. And that absolutely fundamentally not just changed my life, but saved my life. So I'm sharing that because I've been on that journey, and I can validate 100% that what you're saying works, and there's so much power in that. So thank you
And there's so
for,
much power in your story, and it's why you're here. You're here sitting with me and able to smile as you are and doing all this good work.
thank you. Thank you. So let's dive into your work as an osteopath. Talk to me about how you work with people, and how you support people in that role as an osteopath.
Yeah, so I'm quite passionate about osteopathy, and I don't know if it's the same in Australia. It's a little bit different from one country to the next. So, for
Yes.
example, in the States, it's a medical doctor. Here in Canada, it's not. It's a manual practice. And I remember, because I studied athletic therapy first, and when we learned anatomy and athletic therapy, we learned all the different parts, and we studied all the different parts, and I loved anatomy. But I remember as I was rehabbing from my first spine surgery, I was going to see my mentor, who was an athletic therapist who was in his third year of osteopathy. And when he spoke about anatomy, he always spoke about how it was all connected, how it all interrelated with other things. And it just opened up my world. I'm like, that just resonates with me. That's what I'm feeling in my body, that it's not all these separate parts, that it's all connected. So I immediately started the osteopathy program when I graduated from athletic therapy. And from day one, every time we talked about anatomy, it was never in isolation. It was always about how everything affects everything else. All the systems are interrelated. And that is one of the things that I think sort of sets osteopathy aside a little bit, that we're never just looking at what someone's symptoms are, because often when someone has a symptom, unless there was a direct injury, where you feel your pain is very rarely the source of the pain, right? I think a lot of
Okay.
people have experienced that it's your It's your body trying to get your attention and letting you know, okay, hey, something's going on that you need to address, but it doesn't tell you anything about what's going on, where the problem is, or how bad the problem is. And that's where osteopathy, I feel like a detective coming in and trying to see how are all the systems working together or not, and how can we get them to work in harmony a little bit better. And it's often about, instead of what's not working and how can I fix it, it's about what's working for this person and how can I tap into that and enhance what's already working so that we give their system more power, more strength. And I find that's a small shift in mindset, but it changes everything. If we look at people like they're broken, then they're going to feel broken. And we are not there to fix people. We're there to assist their system that already has that wisdom that we talked about to find its own way through. The other thing about osteopathy that I really appreciate, and I think just brings a different nuance to chronic pain, is the craniosacral work. So I'll just explain a little bit for those who aren't familiar. So aside from our heart rate and our breathing rhythm that we can palpate, there's this third rhythm that we talk about in osteopathy called the primary respiratory mechanism. And it's the fluctuation of the CSF that bathes the brain and spinal cord. And we can palpate that rhythm everywhere in the body. And it's kind of a way that we can assess someone's vitality, whether they've got that oomph inside of them to be able to get through whatever they're dealing with. And what I find fascinating with people who are in chronic pain, and this is just what I've observed clinically, this is not, I'm not sharing this from a research study, this is what I've observed clinically over the years, is that when people are living with chronic pain, there's often very little vitality. And at the same time, when you place your hands on their head, it's this sensation like it's a pressure cooker that's waiting to blow. And what I've learned is that when I have that sensation under my hands, it's not the moment to educate them about pain. It's not the moment to try to teach them new tools because their system is not able to take it in. So if I can do something either manually or often is working on them with their breath to decrease that sensation of everything being like up here and not able to take any more, and at the same time get that vitality, then it's like they're able to receive the information that I would like to share. And that's been a really interesting learning experience because at first, when with the new science of pain and our new understanding of pain, I just wanted to share that information with everyone. And some would be ready to receive it and some not. And there are many different reasons for that. But this is one reason that I have found that has been interesting to observe as a clinician.
I love the fact that you've explained that. I've had experience of that therapy and it is very different. I've had lots of different energy healing and various other therapies over the years, but it is a very different sensation when somebody holds your head in a certain way. Yeah, so interesting that, and I love the fact that you're saying that you recognize that not everybody's ready to receive that information at that time. And I think that's a lot of the work that we do in this healing space, is acknowledging that we're all on a different journey and we need to meet our clients where they're at. That there isn't just this standardized program that we can put in place and, you know, if you do this, tick the box, tick the box, tick the box, send them on their way. And I know, because I know you as a beautiful human being, that you are able to tune into that so well. And yeah, so you mentioned about dealing with people's pain, but what can people do for themselves to actually support their own pain journey?
So much. So much. And this I get so excited about, because our old understanding of pain was more that it was just about what was going on in the tissues. And so to help someone through their pain, either we had to have a treatment or an intervention like a surgery or a cast, you know, something physical that's addressing the mechanical breakdown, if you will. But we finally have the science to back up the fact that it's never just about the tissue. It's about the whole human. It's about the entire human. It's how you're sleeping, how you're eating. Are you in happy, healthy relationships? Your culture, your religion, the environment you live in, and on and on and on and on. So the good news about that is that we can use all of those same things as a way to reduce pain. So rather than only addressing the mechanical issue that may or may not be happening in the physical body, we can also use all those other aspects of a person to help to turn the volume down on pain. And the way that that works, I'll try to do it in a nutshell. Basically, pain is our body's way of giving us a warning, a tap on the shoulder to say, hey, Sarah, something's going on that needs your attention. And again, it doesn't tell you what the problem is, where the problem is, or how bad it is, but it lets you know that something's going on. The problem is that the longer someone has been in pain, the more overprotective the system gets. And it becomes kind of like a helicopter parent that's so worried their child is going to get hurt that they don't let them live life. Our nervous system can become like that. Our nervous system's role in life is to protect us, and it does that job really well. But when we've been in pain or had a chronic illness, it becomes more and more protective and starts to see danger even when there isn't danger. The problem with that is one of the ways that the system protects us is by producing pain as a way to give us a warning. So the more protective the system is, the more likely we are to have pain. Good news is that the opposite is true. That if we can find ways to reassure the system that actually we're not in danger, we're actually safe, we're good, it turns down those protective mechanisms, which ultimately turns down the pain. And then the good news for what can people do themselves is we can use several different doorways into the system to assure the system that we're safe. So things like the breath, mindfulness, present moment awareness, self-compassion, seeking joy, getting good sleep, eating foods that are anti-inflammatory. There's and on and on and on it goes.
Yes, yeah.
So there isn't just that one path. It isn't just about, I hurt my shoulders, so I need to fix my shoulder. It's so much more complex than that. And the beauty of that, I don't get scared by the complexity. I get excited by it because it means that there's so many different opportunities that we can use to influence that pain, because we're going to influence that protective response. And the more we can reassure the system that we feel safe or that we are safe, it turns down those protective responses and it's less likely to produce pain. So that to me is really exciting for people. It puts the power in their hands,
Yes,
which
exactly.
changes everything. You know, you're not all of a sudden just at the mercy of me, the osteopath, or of the physio, or of the surgeon. Yes, use us as extra resources and as tools, as one tool to help you through all this. But you see me for an hour, once a week, once a month, you're in your body 24/7. And there's so much that you can do in that time to continuously reinforce the messages that we talk about together. And then people get a little scared because then they think, well, my God, it's a full-time job to manage chronic pain. And on the one hand, it is. But on the other hand, what's been really interesting to observe both through research and clinically and in my own body is that you do not need to dedicate, like a lot of people think, if I can't get to an hour yoga class, for example, then it's not worth it. If I can't do that full class, then it's not going to be worthy of me to do. And that's not true. What the studies have shown is 2 to 5 minutes a day can make a huge difference. And everybody can commit to 2 to 5 minutes a day. We all have an extra 2 minutes. We can find that. And I say, if you can't find it, then you use your time on the toilet as your time to tune in, check in with your breath, and just be present every time you're on the toilet. And then there's several minutes of the day. And it's the consistency that 2 minutes a day, but every day for 2 minutes a day, you're reassuring your system that you're safe. And if you keep giving that message over and over and over and over, and keep finding different creative ways to give that message, it starts to believe you. And when it starts to believe you, that's when those protective responses start to turn down.
Again, my mind's just going in 100 different directions in terms of what to sort of talk about next, because you've shared so many empowering things there. I was excited. And before you said that it's an empowering journey, I was just like, yes, this is something to get excited about. This is an empowering journey. All of a sudden, are in charge of how we show
We
up
are in
for
charge.
ourselves.
Yes.
We get to make a choice in every single moment how we choose to respond. And we are not reliant on something external outside of ourselves to fix, in inverted commas, the thing that we're struggling with. So
Exactly.
if people hear just one thing from our conversation, then let it be that let's empower people to know that it's their body, and as you said, they're with it 24/7, and we have that wisdom inside us, and getting curious about that journey and about our pain is actually quite liberating, whereas normally I think we would look at it and go, this is just hard. But it is hard, but it doesn't need to be so hard, is what I would like to sort of,
exactly.
yeah, is what I would like to share with people. So I think we could talk forever. There is, yeah,
Definitely.
there's just so many things, but I would love for you, I know that you have a free gift that you would love to share with the audience. So
I
can you
do. Yes. Do you want me to
tell
talk
us a
about
little
the
bit more about
gift?
that? Yes, please.
Sure. So as Sarah mentioned, I have this 8-week pain care program. So what I've done is I've pulled some of the practices out of that to give people a taste of what they can expect. So there's a breath practice, a mindfulness practice, some pain care education, and some gentle movement. So that's all free. It's short videos. And again, you don't need to do all of those videos every day. Not at all. Choose one thing and then keep rotating through them and start to notice, okay, when I feel like this, I do better when I pick this practice, but when I feel like this, I think I should go to that practice. That might take weeks or months before you develop that awareness, and that's okay. But be really curious and really interested about what shifts as you do these things. I will say though that none of this is a magic bullet that you're in an 8 on 10 pain, you do this breath practice, and all of a sudden you're in a 2 on 10 pain. I wish that it was that simple. Sometimes that might happen, but that's actually not even the goal. The goal is that over time, we are turning down those protective responses so that your body is not always producing pain. So it's not about how your system changes necessarily in the moment that you do the practice, but it's over time, how are you noticing that things shift? And I just want to remind people that it has taken your whole lifetime for you to develop certain habits, patterns, and nervous system responses that have led to you living the way you're living right now. I would assume that many of the people watching are in pain, and that's why you're watching this episode. So you can't expect that it's in one session or even 5 sessions that all of a sudden all the lifetime of patterns are going to get wiped out and you're going to feel better. Because you just set yourself up for failure if you're going into it thinking that. Please know that these do work, but it is a process. So trust in the process, trust in the wisdom of your body, and give it time. Just give it some time and trust that even if you're not feeling something immediately, it is working in the background. You may not be aware of it right away, but it is doing its thing in the background. And there's going to be a day where you go, I'm feeling a little better. I've got a little more energy, or I'm less on edge. My mood is a little bit more stabilized. I'm a little more functional. I'm a little more apt to say yes when someone invites me out for coffee. I'm sleeping a little better. It's not only going to be how is my pain, that's going to be your barometer of whether these tools are working for you. I went off on a tangent again, Sarah.
No, you didn't, because that's just made me want to share. For me, when you were talking, it was similar to my journey with meditation. It's a daily practice. It's showing up for yourself, even if it's just 2 minutes of focusing on my breath every single day. I make that commitment to self. And some days I'll do and I've been meditating for years. And some days I will do a meditation practice and I feel like, quote unquote, it's gone badly, whatever that means, like, I didn't, I didn't really, it didn't really go too well today. But it's in the spaces after that practice that actually that healing may have occurred, or that feeling of calm may have occurred. I may notice that I'm responding differently to life, that I'm showing up for myself in a different way. So I think we place a lot of focus on it's almost like we're impatient. We want results here and now.
Yes.
But our body and our experience is so much bigger and deeper than that. So it's about having patience and compassion, and just knowing that what we are doing is supporting our healing journey in some capacity, and we may not see the direct results of that for some time, but it doesn't mean that we don't keep showing up to try.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. You put that beautifully.
So I would love for you to share how people can connect with you and how they can work with you.
Yes, sure. So a few ways. I have quite a few free resources out there. I have a YouTube channel, Stillness in Motion with Colleen Jorgensen. So there's tons of free practices on there. And I usually share those same practices on Facebook and Instagram, both of which are Stillness in Motion, _ Stillness in Motion on Instagram. My website is colleenjorgensen.org, and email is the best way to reach me, Sarah. I won't spell it out. I'm sure it'll be in your notes, right? That's
Yes,
probably the best thing.
I'll put it all in the notes.
Perfect. So please, if you have any questions on what we talked about today, I'm happy to answer. It's a topic I'm very passionate about, and I'm very happy to help if I can. And I don't have the next pain care the next 8-week sessions scheduled, but there's a waiting list. So if you think that you're someone who is interested in that program, you can absolutely get yourself on the waiting list. And then the next time I'm running a session, I will get in contact with you so that we can get started together.
That sounds wonderful. And I definitely encourage people to reach out to you and to put their name on that waiting list. I know so many people in the space that I work in are dealing with pain. And I think we minimize that sometimes. We feel like we just have to cope with pain.
Just keep muddling through.
This is just the way that it is. This is just the cards that we've been given for this lifetime. And I now know that that doesn't need to be the case. So I really encourage people to reach out to you.
Sorry, Sarah, may I say something about that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was fascinated every time I've run it so far, how many people reached out to me to say, I want to take your program, but I don't think I'm in enough pain. And it
Oh,
made me so sad. I never imagined that people could think that their pain wasn't worthy or something. Or some of them were worried that they would take a spot of someone who was worse off than them. So first of all, there's room for everyone. So please don't worry about that. Second of all, it doesn't matter how much pain you're in, what kind of pain you have, or even if you're in any pain at all, because the truth is that as humans, we will experience pain in our lives. That's just part of being human, right? And it's actually a really nice time to learn about how to deal with it when you're not in pain. So even if you're someone who's not dealing with an issue right now, that means you've got a lot of space and resilience in your body to learn things now so that if something does happen, you're already armed with the tools. It's kind of like waiting for an earthquake to happen before you get the extra water and the extra food. It's not easy to get those things when you're in the midst of the crisis, but it's really great if you've got all that already in your back pocket. So it's for everyone. If you're in pain, it is for you. Doesn't matter what kind or how much pain you have. But if you're someone who's just curious to learn more about your body and have the tools, if ever something does happen, then please, it's up for you as well, for sure.
I think that the one thing that I learned about pain that really changed my relationship with pain, which I learned in mindfulness when I did mindfulness training, was about needing to breathe into your pain, and also that the pain ebbs and flows, and being an observer to that.
Yeah.
Just learning those two things for me made such a difference to me when I was lying in ICU.
It's so good that you're sharing that, because people always think it has to be this big, grandiose thing, right? That it's hard to imagine if you're someone who's lying in the ICU in terrible pain, that something as simple as that can make a difference, but it does.
It does.
It's often the simplest things that do make the biggest impact. So thank you for sharing that. And the
My
same for
pleasure.
me when I was lying, unable to move anything but my hands. I don't know what I would have done without my breath. And I used my breath all day, every day for weeks as a way to try to soothe my system and treat my pain. I couldn't do anything else. So it's one of our most powerful tools. And as you said, it's free and it's on our person every moment of every day. So why not use it?
Exactly. And for me, I'd always learned about the power of the breath. For me, I couldn't breathe because I had fluid on my lungs and I was gasping for every breath. So it really did become about those two small pieces of information that I've just shared that got me through that and allowed me to step out of fear, which was, I feel like I'm drowning, to just relax, this isn't going to be forever. It was that mindset that is really, really important. So again, I can attest to all the work that you're doing and how important all the tools are that you work with people.
Hats off to you, Sarah, because that takes a lot of courage when you're struggling that much to be able to recognize in the moment that you are going to be okay and that this is temporary. It's all temporary. It's easy to say once we're out of it, but when you're in it, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of faith, right? A lot of faith in the wisdom of our body. And I'm so glad that you trusted in it, because it got you here, and thank God it did.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. This has been an absolutely beautiful conversation. I've learned so much from you. I feel like we've just scratched the surface, and I'm sure at some point in the future there's another conversation that we can have. But do you have any final words of wisdom for our audience today?
Yeah, I think what I wish everybody knew and believed is that you can trust in your own body. Again, our body's always giving us messages in the form of sensation and thought and emotion. And instead of creating a negative story or a fearful story about what you're feeling, just be super interested and say, well, isn't that interesting? And what can I learn from this so that it can help me next time? And it might sound kind of pat to say that, but truly it shifts things to, instead of every time you have a new sensation in your body thinking, oh my God, I've injured something else, or I've gotten worse, or now I'm going to need to follow up with the doctor, recognize that it's like a friend tapping you on the shoulder and trying to get your attention to say, oh, that person you want to leave the bar with, they're a little sketchy. I don't think you should do that. It's your system trying to tap you on the shoulder and tell you something. But the tricky part is it's not good about telling us what it is. So that's where you come in. Trust in your own body, trust in your gut instincts, and start to listen to them rather than only relying on the experts that are helping you from the outside. The experts are great. And I don't mean to not have a team, because you should, but try not to put them up here and yourself down here. You guys are a team, and you are your own best expert. I have a lot of theoretical knowledge, but I don't live in your body. Your body is giving you information all day, every day that I just can't know. So you trust in that. I guess that was a very long way to say trust in your body, and have the confidence and the courage to believe yourself when you have a gut instinct about your own body.
Yeah, and I just want to share, certainly in my sort of medical journey, that it can be very disempowering when particularly if you move into the sort of very medical space, you can become very disempowered in that journey. And one thing that I learned, which I just want to emphasize, because you've expressed it so beautifully, is that we are our own best guide, and it's okay to ask for a second opinion. It's okay to question what we perceive to be professionals, quote unquote. Because that truth is always within. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for all the wisdom that you have shared with us today. I know that this has been an invaluable conversation. I can't wait to put it out into the world, and I really recommend, if you've watched this, please connect with Colleen. She is an absolute angel. I adore her, and I know that she can help you and support you on your journey. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.